Well, welcome back to the shop. We've got another project we're going to start today, and we're going to be building some mobile bases out of some structural steel for some Delta woodworking machinery. And I've got a planer that I'm in the process of rebuilding, and there's a couple of videos on my channel that shows the start of that process. And also, I've got a bandsaw and a drill press that I want to put on a mobile base, and I'll show you the reason why and explain the reason why. So let me show you what we've got here. Over here I've got my bandsaw, and over there I have my drill press. I've got the power for both of them right here, which is very handy. And one might ask, well, why do you need a mobile base? Looks like they're in pretty good positions, easy to use, good power. Well, let me tell you why. When there's a car in here and the head of the domestic engineering department comes in with her car and tries to get groceries out of the back of the car, opens the door and tries to get groceries through here, she gets a little upset. So what we're going to do is we're going to make one mobile base that's going to have the drill press on it and the bandsaw on it. And it'll be oriented so that I'll be able to use the drill press in the position that it's in right now, and the bandsaw will be on the other side of it, to the right. So that'll should work out all right, and it'll sit right here, and I can move it around wherever I want. Then the other one I've got to do is for my planer project here that I need to get back to, and we're going to go ahead and make the base for that right now, even though it's not ready to be used, so that when I go start putting this all back together, I think as I've said in a couple videos, this thing is about 750 pounds when it's all put back together. And if I make the base, put it in the base right now, we should be good to go, and I'll just leave it in the base as I'm building it, or reassembling it, I should say. So that's kind of what we're up to today. I'll give you a preview of what I'm talking about as far as my mobile base, because I've already made one of these for my unisaw and the side cabinet that goes along with it. So what I've got here, right down here, this is 1.5 by 2.5 tube, and then it goes along, and then I've got inside of that there is a 2.5-inch angle iron on which the machine sits. So we're going to duplicate this exact same look for those other machines, and then I've got these cross pieces here that are 3/8 by 3, and they support the casters. So these machines move around very easily, and once these casters are locked, they're pretty stationary. So it's worked out pretty well so far on this, on my unisaw here. So we're going to go ahead, get started with our cutting, get everything to length. I think all of my materials here. We've got some 2.5-inch by 1.5-inch tube. We've got our angle iron and our flats over there. So we're set up here to get started with the cutting. So let's go ahead and get going on this project. I've got a cut list here that I've gone over several times to make sure that I've got everything the way it is, and also I did this so I could specify where I needed to have my material cut at the steel supply shop. Okay, we've got all of our tubing cut for the drill press bandsaw base, and before I start cutting the angle iron to fit in there, I'm going to just frame this up a little bit, maybe tack it before, so I get the exact measurements before I start cutting the angle iron. Okay, it's going to fit together about like that right there. This will be where the drill press sits, this will be where the bandsaw sits. Now I'm going to have to get my grinder out and clean up these cuts, take a little mill scale off where I'm going to be tacking this before we start putting it together. Alright, I've got this cleaned up. I can start with the 2 end ones because I know those are going to be 1.5 inches from the end, so that 3-inch flat bar fits right on top of there. And then I'm going to just double check these interior ones to make sure I've got them spaced exactly right for the bandsaw base and for the drill press base. Okay, I've got my 90-degree magnets in here, got this set up, got 1.5 inches back. We're going to go ahead and put some, I'll just check it again on both sides and make sure we're at least square at this stage. And then I'll put a couple tacks on there just to hold it for a moment. There, so I've got the ends set where I need them. Now I'm just going to remeasure and make sure I get these positioned exactly where I need them. Okay, let's give it an initial check for square. See how we're doing. Eight and a half. We're good there. Okay, we've got this frame all welded up, and I've gone ahead and I cut the pieces that are the angle iron pieces that are going to fit down here on which the machines will sit. And I cut them about 3/8 of an inch shorter so they clear these weld beads on the insides without having to grind anything. So that turned out pretty well. Got all those cut. And what I've got to do now is I'm going to cut the web out of these, out of one side of this angle so that they'll fit down there flush. So right here, this web piece right here is going to come out, as well as this one over here and on the other side as well. So those will sit then flush with these, and this is the bearing surface on which the machines will sit. I'm going to cut these webs out using my portaband here. Usually works pretty good for that. That little saw is an awesome deal. These things work great with these swag little tables. Okay, let's get over the back here now. See how everything. So you can see what we've done here. This is all now flush. So the machine base will sit all the way around, all four sides, right on these angle iron. And then same over here with the drill press. We've got these fitted in here. We'll clean out the mill scale here a little bit and bevel them out a little bit before we start putting some weld in there. And then these will just be welded to these cross members here, as well as these longer rails, and that'll be, trust me, plenty strong to hold these machines. And keep it very rigid, by the way. They probably didn't need to be nearly as this heavy duty, but A, I've never been accused of doing anything light duty, and secondly, overbuilding it a little bit eliminates any instability that you might get with some twist and whatnot, because I did that with a mobile base earlier that I built a few years back, and it's got a little bit of a give in it, which I don't like. We've got this frame welded up. Still got a couple little spots that I need to touch up. Now we're ready to put the supports for the casters on, and I cut those. These are 3/8 by 3. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just stack these on top of each other, put a couple tacks on here to keep them together. Then I'll center punch where the casters go, and we'll go ahead and we'll head over to the drill press and drill them up with 5/16 holes. Setting them 3/8 of an inch back from the end of the flat bar here, and I know that based on my unisize, I know I need like 6 3/4 inches to hit for the swivel radius to clear here when they're on there. So this should work. All right, now we can go over to the drill press and drill these up all together. Okay, well, I've still got these tacked together. I'm going to go ahead and relieve these edges a little bit here on the corners. Okay, I probably tacked those up a little harder, a little more than I really needed to. Now, these should be 6 7/8 on each side, if I calculate it right. Yep. 6 7/8 on each side. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tack those just to hold them in place. Okay, we've got our cross pieces on here for the caster supports tacked on both ends. What we've got to do now is I've got a few other welds to do. We'll start the cleanup process with a wire wheel and flat disc, get it ready to degrease and put some acetone, wipe it down with some acetone to get it good and clean, and we'll be ready for paint. Okay, here are the mobile bases, ready for the paint shop, so to speak. This is the one that's going to have the drill press is going to be right here, and the bandsaw will be right here. And then this one is where the planer will be. Now I put the casters on just with a couple bolts to hold them there so I can move them around because they're pretty heavy, as you might imagine. I didn't show the build of the planer base because it was exactly the same process that I went through for this one, only a little smaller, and that was just a single bay versus two like these. But other than that, it was exactly the same process. Dimensions, of course, were a little bit different. All right, we've got our bases ready to go. I've scrubbed them down with some good degreaser and rubbed them down also with a couple times actually with some acetone to get all the dirt and muck off of them. So now we're gonna go ahead and give them a coat of primer. Okay, we've got things primed up. Got my dark machine gray Rust-Oleum. We're going to hit them a little coat, give them a first coat, let that dry, and we'll keep at it for the next couple hours, these things will be ready to go. Well, we got our paint done. There's a couple spots I'm going to have to touch up, but I figured I'd do that after I put the machines in, because I'm probably going to scratch them just a shade doing that. But time to go ahead and put the casters on, so let's get that done. Now, one more thing I'm going to do before I put the machines in there. I've got some rubber, little rubber strips here. Actually, there's some liner for a pond or some damn thing, a fountain. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some strips and I'm going to glue them right in here to serve as a little bit of a vibration cushion in case these machines are out of even a little bit or whatever, in case they kind of keep them from rattling. So I'm going to go ahead and just cut these, put a little Gorilla Glue on there, then I set the machine in. Okay, I've got this little layer of rubber laying in there in each of these bays with some glue, so it should stick pretty good once the machine sits on it. So the next step is put the machines in. Well, the machines fit like a glove in here, so I'm happy about that. Okay, we've got our bases all done. I think they turned out pretty well. This is for the planer. So I've got these all, they're bolted down. The drill press, I've got 3/8 inch bolts where they had some mounting holes, so I did that. And it works pretty darn well. It's easy to move around. These casters give it plenty of mobility. The planer I've still got obviously a lot of work to do on that. But that's going to work just fine, I think, when it's all done. So I've got to finish that project. Now, early in the video, I think I mentioned that I was going to put a bar or something in here to support the a plug-in, a power outlet or whatever, power strip. And I got to thinking, had a bunch of old plywood scraps laying around. Not the best plywood, but basically just sheathing. And I wanted to get rid of it. So, let me show you what I did. I made this little cabinet here that's going to sit between my bandsaw and drill press. And I've got 2 outlets, one on each side. There. And I made a little cabinet. I'll put some hooks in there and put my bandsaw blades. Store those in there. And then around the front here, I've got some different levels. I can store a bunch of scraps and what have you, both metal and wood scraps. So that'll kind of keep them handy and keep them off the floor and pretty well organized. So now I'm going to go ahead and mount that cabinet right in there. And we'll show you what that looks like. By golly, I think we're going to call this a wrap. This thing's ready to go. I think this is going to serve real well. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button right down there, I think. Send me any comments or ideas you've got on this. Hopefully this is helpful for some of you guys out there and give you some ideas for storage. Hope you enjoyed the video. Take care.